Hello everyone. Namaskar. Welcome to this special episode and first of its kind show, Money and Prosperity. As you know, I'm Ashok Vyas, and today I have the pleasure of welcoming Paresh Shah, CFP, and he's CEO of Paresh Shah Financial Services. Paresh ji is a certified financial planner, wealth strategist for last 17 plus years. He has helped individuals and businesses co-create innovative financial strategies. Paresh is a licensed CPE presenter, educating CPAs as they guide their clients on investments, life, disability, and long-term care insurance. Paresh specializes in pension and profit-sharing plans, asset protection, estate planning, and business succession planning. The gentleman you are about to meet graduated as a chemical engineer, honors graduate from the prestigious Indian Institute of Technology at Kharagpur, India. He is a 2016 honoree for Long Island Business News Leaders in Diversity Awards. He resides in the town of Hicksville in Long Island with his wife Shrimal and son Shamik, who is a junior at Stony Brook University, right here in New York. And as we begin today's show talking about money and prosperity, let me feel the sense of prosperity by welcoming you warmly. Namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you for the great introduction. Really appreciate it, Ashok ji, and really appreciate the time today.
Paresh, let's jump, as they say, or talk about prosperity in USA today. People feel things are moving, there is always something happening, and so that sense of dynamism in the financial field, how you analyze it?
So, Ashok ji, while I see that there is a constant pattern of growth taking place in the US today, one of the things that has been a source of worry has been the inequality that is happening. And just to give you an example, so 0.1% of the country, that is about 160,000 families, they have about 22% of the nation's wealth today. And if you look at that number, then this same group, that is 0.1% of the country's families, in 1963, they had about 10% of the country's wealth. So that went up by 12%. So not only did they participate in the growth that took place from the 60s till now, but also the amount of percentage that they got was higher. And if you take the bottom 90% of this our country's population, they had in the 70s and 80s about 35% of the country's wealth. And today they have about 22% of the country's wealth, 22-23%. Their number came down by about 12%. Mm-hmm. So if you look at how much they came down by, the growth that took place has primarily, plus more, has gone to the upper category. The in-between 9.9% or 10%, whatever you want to call it, they kind of participated in the growth. They did not do more than the growth or less than the growth, but they participated in the growth. This sense of now these statistics were recently presented by a gentleman by the name of Matt Stewart in the Atlantic in an article published in May 16. And what he was trying to kind of talk about in that article is that there was crashes that happened in 2000 and then in 2007, 2008. That left a lot of people behind. But those who were in the higher echelons of money, they could catch up and they could come forward. But the ones who were in the lower parts have still suffered and continue to suffer. So while there is a prosperity and there's forward movement in our country, there's also a big gap or a chasm that's happening between the rich and the poor, you know.
So why this gap is widening, Paresh? It is important for us to understand the reasons for this gap and seek your help if one is towards that side, which is not very pleasant to be in, how they can move towards the other side. So let us understand the reasons for this widening gap.
According to me, the first and the main thing that needs to be understood is how wealth is thought of and wealth is talked of in our country. And there is a methodology of financial planning which I like to call traditional financial planning. Now, this traditional financial planning model that has existed for the last 15, 20 years has failed Americans. And because of the failure of this model of planning that has happened, which is a very linear model and is not keeping up with the dynamics of the time, that because of the failure of that model, a lot of the American families are being left behind. Now, Ashokji, let me be very clear here. I'm not here talking about those people who are splurging money and not keeping, they're just using up their savings or all their earnings, living paycheck to paycheck by trying to keep up with the Joneses. Either they don't have that income because they're at a lower level of income, or if they have their income also because they're trying to live up to that lifestyle, they're not being able to save. I'm talking about the average American hardworking family that lives a good life and yet every month puts away money in savings. Those families are not being able to keep up, and because of this model.
But I'm a little bit, if I say disturbed, people think that I'm leading a simple life, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and there is a cause and effect relationship in terms of the growth chart that one conceives in one's mind. Yeah. So when you say that traditional financial planning model has failed, what do you mean by that? And when we say traditions are important, then we also accept that we need to evolve in a dynamic fashion. So in the context of financial orbit, what would that mean?
So there are the major part about traditional financial planning it's a twofold model, and it's pretty simple and straight line model. That means in your working years you work, you use money for expenses, you save. The savings you usually put into some kind of stock and bond portfolios through retirement accounts or through other savings. And then you reach a point in retirement, now when you have a pool of money. And that pool of money you expect will generate an income for you, which should keep up with you for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
Okay. And the other part of that model which has broken down, which was expected to support you in case this saving was not enough, is the model of getting a pension from your workplace and getting social security. Well, most pensions are gone and social security incomes are also coming down. So if those are not there, now you're primarily relying only on that pool of savings that you have, which is the central core. And that particular savings is expected to keep giving you income, but it's not giving you income. And I'll tell you why. As an example, let's say there's a family and in the year 2000, let's say they husband and wife, they retired. They had $1 million in savings, and they said that besides social security and pension that they had, they needed 50,000 in income. So they took that $1 million and they put it into a bank at a CD, 5-year CD, which would give them 5% interest every year. Happy they were getting their $50,000 every year. But now come 2010, 10 years later, let's say they got one renewal of their CD. In 2010, when they tried to renew their CD in the bank, now they're not getting 5%. They're getting 1% or 2%. So what was 50,000 in income has become 10,000 in income. Not only that, there has been an increase in the cost of living. A general cost of living has gone up. So that inflation factor is adding to the elements of cost. Against it, we are having lower income. So the traditional model, this is what I mean by the traditional model, which does not have the dynamism or the things included to keep guaranteeing income.
So now, Paresh, here's the question. Nowadays, everybody looks up to Google for everything, and they feel that information available, and I'm also a smart guy. So whatever needs to be known, I can do my research online and I'll have all the answers. So here comes the question related to financial professional or someone who helps navigate through the financial system. What is it that you bring additional when you work with your clients? So in essence, what should be done, what can be done in order to offset the impact which is adverse of such scenario?
Yeah. Ashokji, let me put this together by saying that, every individual and every family is different. So as an advisor, our role normally is not only to be the person who gives financial help, but gives shape to the financial plan very specifically with respect to the individual person and the family. Then after that, there might be each person's need may be different and each person's requirement may be different. I have met people, you'll be surprised to know that I've met people for whom $5,000 a month would be good income in retirement, and there are people who tell me that $15,000 is not going to be adequate for them for the kind of life they want to live in retirement. So because of that, we find that there is a lot of difference in the type of planning that needs to be done. And then after that, there are a series of factors which we feel need to be examined in a lot of detail. The present online systems, some of them, the investment models that are being offered are absolutely phenomenal. I have no doubt about that. There are some websites which are so good out there that they are really taking good modeling and helping people grow their wealth. But are they taking into account all the factors? Like, are they taking into account the fact that is the family got correct type of insurances? How are they managing their liabilities? So just to give you one small example, and we'll of course go into this later in details and show, talking about liabilities, there are people who will be putting away money in savings on which they get 7, 8, 10%, but are paying 20% on credit cards. Mm-hmm. So here you're paying more interest. So what's the point in having that saving? Rather, correct, it would be better to pay off that debt.
Absolutely.
So how do you manage the liabilities? How do you create proper budgeting and cash flow? How do you get your giving back strategies, that means giving back to society strategies in place? How do you plan your retirement so that all your accounts are synced to give you adequate income, so that over, if say retirement is 20, 30 years, then during that time you get income steadily? We look into 15 such factors and we try to see that if we can fit in all those factors into a proper financial plan. I do feel that we have a substantial role here in recognizing a person's needs and fitting in all these various elements. And no person can do all the elements in one go. So it's important to have an advisor who will prioritize them, put them in the right order, and keep executing them time and time again.
But looking at the importance of this subject, and as you were saying, I started realizing that we have so many things going on in our lives, and many times we think we know how to do it, but we actually don't do it. We just think in our mind, at the back of our mind, to get to the kind of details that you are suggesting. There are very few people who are actually by their nature equipped to do in that systematic fashion. So I request you that we go about it in detail in some other episode, if you agree.
Yes, absolutely. I think that there are so many elements. I think we can take each of these elements in a series and go over it in separate shows,
So now, Paresh, the time comes when we understand the value of money as well as time. And money and prosperity can only happen if you value your time. So giving that hint in terms of reaching to the point where I would be thanking you. And as I thank you, I think there is something that I want to specifically mention and share with our viewers. And that is related to an important number. So if you want to reach out to Paresh Shah, the number for reaching out and checking out how he can be of help in planning and consulting from their point of view. 516-268-3446. Many sixes there. 516-268-3446. And right after 2 weeks, again we will have this valuable 15-minute segment with Paresh ji. Paresh ji, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ashwin.
Thanking Paresh ji and thanking all of you for being with us. This is a show. Yes.
Thank you, viewers.